Hi, and welcome back to Deep, Dark, and Scary. Today, I actually want to talk about a current missing persons case, and it's the disappearance of the 15-year-old Alisa Petrov. Thankfully, Alisa was found alive and in good health. After having been missing for almost 6 weeks, she voluntarily walked into the Colorado Springs police station Sunday night. It's been a little bit in the news. I think every day there is more information of what kind of has happened and which kind of people are allegedly involved. And it's just a really scary case of online grooming. And I think it's important to address what that kind of means and that happens to many, many people. And there are just these perpetrators out there in the world that are doing nothing, or at least not much else, but trying to get in contact with minors online. It's just the most disgusting thing. Anyway, let's get into that. This video is for informational and awareness purposes only. All individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Alisa Petrov was last seen on the morning of April 21st, 2025, after her mother dropped her off at school in American Fork, Utah. But she never went inside the school. Later that same day, surveillance footage captured Alisa in Provo, reportedly asking strangers for help, trying to travel to Las Vegas, a city she had no known connections to. When she didn't come home, her family reported her missing. Soon after, the South Jordan Police Department listed her as missing and endangered. Her sudden disappearance has left her family and her entire community in distress and has drawn national attention to the dangers of online grooming. Her parents said that they regularly monitored her phone and educated her about the dangers of talking to strangers online, and that also everything seemed normal and nothing suspicious was going on with her. But Alisa, at one point of time, had found an old iPad in the house that her family had put away somewhere and completely forgot about. And this is what she used to secretly communicate with these adult men. Her parents were completely unaware of her even having found this iPad. And it was also apparently so well hidden in her room that it was only found during the second search. This is such an awful situation and so scary for the parents. And this has nothing to do with Alisa's disappearance in particular. But I feel like some teenagers have this secret inside world and life of their own, psychologically, their own feelings and thoughts that they just don't share with anyone. You know, maybe don't know how to share with anyone or think they just can't. And for whatever reason that is, I just think that's a really real thing and issue at that age for some kids. But I also think once this process starts and at that age, you obviously don't know how to deal with those kinds of messages and the way these kind of perpetrators speak to you. So you might in the beginning just go along with something. You're like, oh, this is a nice guy, that's a cool person or whatever. And a lot of times they also portray to be somebody else or a different age group. So you obviously have no way of knowing who you actually talk to. And then before you know it, the conversation is a whole different thing. And you kind of have gotten yourself in a lot of trouble, or you're unable to even see the situation you're in. And there's a lot of shame and guilt involved, like on a really deep level on the teenager side. So it's just a really dark way of manipulating young people. And honestly, during some of the most vulnerable times of a girl's life, it's just so cruel, you know? Anyway, so investigators later uncovered that 3 different adult men had been communicating with Alisa online before she disappeared. 35-year-old Matthew Nicholas Menard, who's originally from Indianapolis and a tech sales executive living in Miami, Florida. He allegedly spent months grooming her and gaining her trust. And police says that he convinced her to send him explicit images and engage in perverted communications before agreeing to meet in person. When Alisa disappeared, messages between the two revealed they had arranged to meet in Vegas. But as of now, it seems that police believes the two actually never met. It was reported that Menard surrendered to police and had turned himself in Wednesday evening and was booked into Salt Lake County Jail. He now faces multiple charges. A second man Alisa was speaking to was identified as William Taylor Glines, aged 37, from Texas City. He was arrested on May 8th and faces similar charges, as well as charges of possessing even more image and video materials of that type. And he remains in custody, and according to the probable cause affidavit, he also tried to convince her to send him explicit images. And Alisa expressed feeling extremely uncomfortable and anxious about it, to the point that she actually felt like doing something harmful to herself. He then allegedly threatened to punish her if she doesn't send him these images, and she opted for the punishment instead, which is just unbelievable, but it shows you how much she didn't want to do it. And I will say, for a lot of girls and even women, it takes a very long time to learn how to say no. That's like a real thing. And I'm sure there's some women who never learn it, unfortunately. So he then asked her to physically punish herself and explain to her in these messages that he's a sadist, which is probably the worst kind of perpetrator you can meet online or in person, no matter your age. So South Jordan police also arrested a third man named Samuel Mitchell, who was 41 years old and from Harriman, Utah. He was identified through a search warrant and allegedly communicated with Alisa on Discord and Snapchat, where police found more disturbing messages. Let's get into the alarming rise of online grooming. Alisa Petrov's case is heartbreaking, but tragically, it is not unique. Online grooming has become a pervasive threat to children and teens. Puberty is a time where especially young girls are very impressionable, innocent and naive in a way that they don't have a better understanding of the situation when an adult man tries to lure them in, and a lot of teens are just trying to belong and find their place in the world. According to the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force in Utah, 1 in 5 children is solicited online. Predators often use social media platforms to befriend minors, gradually building trust before introducing certain types of content into the conversation. They may pretend to be peers, their own age, offer compliments or gifts, or provide emotional support to gain a child's trust. Once that trust is established, it's too late, and they try to pressure or coerce the child into sending explicit messages or into meeting up in person. But it doesn't just stop there. Many predators don't just exploit children privately. Many are part of underground online networks where they trade explicit images, share grooming techniques, and treat children like commodities in a horrifying black market of abuse for the sole and sad purpose of self-gratification. It's not just criminal, it's subhuman. And the level of depravity in these networks is beyond disturbing. And the people who operate in them, they belong behind bars for life and not out on the streets. Social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and even online games have come under fire for failing to protect children from online predators. In December 2023, the New Mexico Attorney General filed a major lawsuit against Meta platforms, alleging that Facebook and Instagram have become breeding grounds for child predators. The lawsuit claims that Meta's algorithms actually facilitate the spread of exploitative content and that the company has consistently failed to implement proper safety measures. But despite Meta's public statements claiming they use sophisticated technology and cooperate with law enforcement, internal documents suggest a troubling truth that the company has historically prioritized user engagement and growth over child safety. I mean, that we have to talk about this again and again is crazy because this has been going on for a long time. The dangers of online platforms. Predators don't just target children, they study them. They lurk in Instagram DMs, Snapchat chats, Discord servers, and on platforms like Roblox or Minecraft, knowing that's where young people spend their time. They use flattery, they send gifts, they share fake photos, and tell children what they want to hear. Sometimes it takes weeks, sometimes just a night or a few minutes. But once trust is built, the manipulation begins. And often it doesn't stop with just one victim. And let's be clear, this epidemic is claiming lives, and in different ways. Let's look at some other recent cases that all ended in tragedy. Naziah Harris, who was 13 years old, vanished from Detroit in January 2024. Her disappearance was later ruled a homicide. A man described as a groomer and was arrested in connection with her death. Cimarron Thomas was just 12 years old and took her own life in West Virginia in 2018 after being blackmailed by a predator named Alexander McCartney, who posed as a teenage girl online. Authorities later discovered that McCartney had exploited over 3,500 children around the world, and he was thankfully sentenced to life in prison. But these are not rare cases. These are only the cases we know and hear about. Let's take a closer look at the scope of this crisis in the US. A national survey found that approximately 15.6% of individuals in the US reported experiencing this type of online child abuse at some point in their lives. The FBI estimates that at any given moment there are around 500,000 predators online actively trying to exploit children. Children aged 12 to 15 are especially at risk and the most vulnerable to online grooming. This is the most frequently targeted age group by online predators. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children reported a 300% increase in online enticement reports between 2021 and 2023. According to internal documents from Meta, nearly 2 million underage accounts were recommended to suspected predators on Instagram in just a 3-month period during 2019. And here are also some global statistics. In the UK, 84% of all recorded online grooming offenses involved female victims. An estimated 300 million children worldwide are victims of this type of online exploitation and abuse every year. Online grooming crimes in the UK have risen 82% over the past 5 years, with over 34,000 cases recorded since 2017. These numbers are more than statistics. They're red flags waving in our faces. They show us that online grooming isn't rare. It's widespread, growing, and often overlooked until it's too late. The lifelong impact of grooming. For those lucky enough to escape the worst outcome, the trauma doesn't end when the grooming stops. Survivors often face lifelong repercussions, including complex PTSD, trust issues and emotional detachment, anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts, stigma and shame, even though they were the victims, difficulty forming healthy relationships or feeling safe in digital spaces, even after they're physically safe. Many survivors describe the same feeling, that they're still being watched, that the shame won't let go, that a part of their childhood was stolen, that they will never get back. Alisa Petrov's disappearance is part of a larger epidemic, one that thrives on innocence, isolation, and the unchecked speed of modern technology, and that it's almost impossible to keep your children safe and watch them 24/7. And sadly, these aren't rare tragedies and isolated cases. They are happening every day in every city and sometimes in the very next room. Thousands of girls aged 12 to 16 are contacted by adult men posing as friends, mentors, or love interests all hours of the day. They're told they're special, that they're safe, that they're loved, and then they pack a bag, they grab a phone or a laptop, and they disappear. No final text, no goodbye, and no trace. And some are never heard from again. Grooming is like someone has put a spell on you, and it's not the child's fault. So if you're a parent, stay involved, ask questions, try to know who your child talks to online. And if you're a young person, know this: you're not alone. Talk to someone you trust. Tell them who you have been speaking to and what's really going on in your life. It may feel difficult to do that, but this can keep you safe and literally save your life, instead of being led down a really dark road that you can't come back from. And asking for help, even while feeling ashamed, is not a weakness. And no matter how bad the situation is that you kind of got yourself into, no matter what someone online says or threatens, even if it feels overwhelming, the moment you involve someone else, another grown-up person, they can just show you that way out 100%. And it's never too late to speak up. The ones who pressure you to leave in secret and to not tell anyone about what you guys talk about, those are not the people who care about you at all. Run the other way. The digital age has introduced new threats to our children, but also new tools to keep them safe. open communication, parental involvement, digital monitoring, and above all, education about the dangers lurking online. And for tech companies, it's time to stop hiding behind algorithms. It's time to prioritize safety over profits. This isn't just a story, this is a call to awareness and a call to protect our children before it's too late. I'm sure we'll eventually hear more details of what happened to Alisa, who helped her, or where she has been for the past weeks. But for now, I'm glad this case didn't end in tragedy. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Stay safe.